What makes Philippine literature unique? The Philippines is unique for having important works in many languages. The most politically important body of Philippine literature is that which was written in Spanish. The propaganda movement, which included Rizal, agitated for independence in 1880s and 1890s, writing exclusively in Spanish. Philippine literature is literature associated with the Philippines from prehistory through its colonial legacies and on to the present. Pre-Hispanic Philippine literature was actually epic passed from generation to generation, originally through an oral tradition. Philippine literature has the influence of Spanish, English, and Japanese. Best of the Philippine literature. Joaquin. Winning the National Artist Award for Literature, Joaquin is probably the most esteemed writer the Philippines has produced. Joaquin came from a well-educated family and was published at the early age of 17. After winning a scholarship in nationwide essay contest, he left the Philippines to study in Hong Kong. On his return to Manila, he worked for many years as a journalist, and highly intellectual writing raised the standards of journalism in the country.
So I say, mabuhay ang Pilipinas! Thank you.
Joaquin's book, The Woman with Two Navels, is essential reading in Philippine literature. A portrait of the artist as Filipino 1966, an essay on history as three generation in 1983. Florante at Laura by Francisco Balagtas. Francisco Balagtas y Dela Cruz, commonly known as Francisco Balagtas and also known as Francisco Baltazar, was a prominent Filipino poet during the Spanish colonial period of the Philippines. He is widely considered one of the greatest Filipino literacy laureates for his impact on. It is very important to acknowledge his legacy as one of the best Filipino poets in history. Baltasar is also known for writing his poem in Tagalog instead of Spanish to show resistance to Spanish rules. Noli Me Tangere and El Filibusterismo by Dr. Jose Rizal. Noli Me Tangere or Touch Me Not is the most controversial and widely known. It's included in the current education curriculum of Filipino high school students, written by the country's national hero, Dr. Jose Rizal. In this revolutionary book, you will learn about the story of Crisostom Ibarra, how he dealt with Spanish authorities, and how he prepared for his revenge as told in Rizal's second book, El Filibusterismo. On Rizal's quote, "On this battlefield, man has no better weapon than his intelligence, no other force but his heart." Ilustrado by Miguel Sijuco. Ilustrado opens with Crispin Salvador, Lion of Philippine Letters, dead in the Hudson River. With his young occult, Miguel sets out to investigate the author's suspicious death and the strange disappearance. Dekada 70 by Luwalhati Bautista. The Marcos era in the 70s is a dark chapter in Philippine history. No one dares to speak against the government for the fear of execution. In some cases, bodies are not even retrieved. Hence, it has been a tumultuous period, especially for the Filipino parents to protect their kids from oppressive regime and at the same time stand together as one family. Luwalhati Bautista has captured true-to-life scenarios in 70s, mentioning changes that arose after the Plaza Miranda bombing and the suspension of writ of habeas corpus in the Philippines. The novel tells the story of lead protagonist Amanda Bartolome and her family, where she had to deal with facing the new law and her responsibilities towards her 5 sons. Ibong Adarna by Jose Dela Cruz. Ibong Adarna is the 16th century Filipino epic poem. It is about eponymous magical bird. The longer form of the story lead title during the Spanish era was korido at buhay ng pinagdaanan ng tatlong prinsipe magkakapatid na anak ni Haring Fernando at ni Reina Valeriana sa kahariang Berbanya. Issues about literature. With technology is improving, people right now do use computers and cell phones instead of reading books because people rely on YouTube that can be more explainable than reading books. About 80% of the people do use cell phone or computer, and that is the reason why literature is somewhat gone now. Based on these statements, it appears that teachers commented on multiple problems of English literature teaching referring to the aspects as students. Low language proficiency levels, lack of language skills, low motivation, lack of training, university entrance exam, and etc. I will probably say Philippine literature is more interesting if you have motivation. I suggest to have more motivation in teaching literature so that it is not boring because people right now doesn't want to read books. People's attention right now is to watch and play video games, and the only motivation in literature of having their attention is to have a unique strategy to get their attention back to the literature.